This story revolves around a woman, Victoria, who denies her daughter to protect her marriage. Will she eventually face the consequences? Let's follow her journey to see if she can justify her actions. Hey everyone, welcome to my amazing channel. Today, we've got an intense and jaw-dropping Nigerian movie to unpack, one that will leave you questioning everything. It's packed with shocking twists, dark secrets, and unimaginable drama. This is one story you definitely don't want to miss. Stick with us as we unravel every shocking turn. The movie begins with Victoria giving instructions to her secretary in her office. Her husband arrives with exciting news that brightens her day. They discuss work-related matters and enjoy their time together before returning to their duties. Later that evening, Chinaza's aunt scolds her for coming home late and demands to know where she had been. Although Chinaza initially lies, her aunt reveals she knows the truth, having received information about her whereabouts. Chinaza eventually admits she attended a birthday party with a friend and promises not to repeat the behavior. Her aunt sends her to bed without dinner. Meanwhile, Victoria and her husband share a quiet moment at home before she heads to work. The following day, Chinaza gets into a fight with two men over money. Her aunt intervenes before the situation escalates, saving her from potential harm. Frustrated with Chinaza's behavior, her aunt calls Victoria, explaining that she is overwhelmed and cannot handle Chinaza anymore. However, Victoria dismisses the concerns, unwilling to take responsibility for her daughter. She abruptly ends the call when her husband enters, brushing it off as a minor issue before serving him wine. The next morning, Victoria calls her daughter's school to check on her. That same morning, Chinaza shows up at Victoria's house but faces resistance from the gateman, who refuses to let her in. Determined, she waits outside the gate for hours. When Victoria and her husband return, she explains to her husband that Chinaza is her niece. Chinaza, overjoyed, follows them inside. In her room, Victoria angrily calls her sister, accusing her of sending Chinaza without her consent. Her sister, however, defends her decision, explaining that she raised Chinaza for 18 years and felt it was time for Victoria to take responsibility. Despite her frustration, Victoria eventually agrees to let Chinaza stay. Later that night, Victoria checks on Chinaza, apologizing for the way the gateman treated her. She promises to buy her a phone and advises her to behave better in Lagos, unlike in Surulere. Chinaza promises to comply. Victoria becomes reflective, recalling her past. She remembers covering up for her sister during their younger days, including lying to their mother about outings. She also recalls her sister's fake marriage plan to hide Victoria's pregnancy and how she convinced their mother to let Victoria live with her while she moved to the city. These memories bring back the sacrifices her sister made to ensure Victoria could marry Chief Chuka. The next morning, Victoria informs Chinaza about food arrangements and the delivery of her phone by her personal assistant. When Chinaza requests money for toiletries, Victoria assures her the PA will handle it. That evening, Chinaza returns home late, claiming her phone battery died. Victoria scolds her, emphasizing the need to follow house rules. Chinaza retorts bitterly, accusing Victoria of pretending to care while threatening to send her away. Her harsh words leave Victoria deep in thought. The next day at the office, Chief Chuka calls an executive meeting and announces his decision to step down as CEO, appointing Victoria as his successor. This surprises everyone, including Victoria. He instructs the executives to support her for the company's growth. After the meeting, Chief Chuka's son, Ifeanyi, confronts his father, opposing the decision. He rudely refers to Victoria by her name, prompting his father to forbid him from doing so, insisting he address her as Ma. Furious, Ifeanyi storms out. Victoria tries to calm him, expressing her own surprise at the decision and urging him to work together with her. However, Ifeanyi declares he will let her handle everything alone and watch her fail before leaving. Later that day, Chinaza returned home on a bike, but nearly got into a fight with the rider because he refused to give her change. Victoria arrived at the scene and was deeply embarrassed and ashamed by Chinaza's behavior. She quickly paid the bike man and dismissed him before taking Chinaza inside to resolve the matter. Victoria warned her sternly about the consequences of her actions. However, Chinaza rudely retorted that she could not change who she was and walked away, leaving Victoria stunned and lost in thought. She hadn't expected such defiance from her daughter. The next morning, while Victoria was on a call, Chinaza emerged dressed inappropriately, wearing revealing clothes. Shocked, Victoria ended her call and began chastising her, calling her names and demanding the name and address of her friend. Chinaza, in turn, mocked Victoria by throwing her past mistakes back at her. Infuriated, Victoria slapped Chinaza, repeating her earlier demand. Chinaza ran out of the house in anger, and although Victoria was fed up with her daughter's behavior, she didn't stop her or seem to care where she went. Later that night, Victoria called her sister to discuss Chinaza's behavior and her absence. Their conversation turned into a light argument, but it was clear that Victoria was genuinely worried about her daughter. The next morning, Victoria was in the kitchen drinking tea when her husband, Chief Chuka, entered. He greeted her and inquired about Chinaza. To avoid discussing the situation, Victoria lied, saying Chinaza was sleeping. However, when Chief Chuka left, he noticed Chinaza outside and seemed confused. When Chinaza came back inside, Victoria reminded her of the rules of the house, but Chinaza talked back defiantly and even avoided a slap from Victoria. Frustrated, Victoria warned her that if she couldn't adapt, she would send her back to her aunt. Believing that was what Chinaza wanted, Victoria walked away from the confrontation. Later that day, Victoria visited a friend and confided in her about Chinaza's troubling behavior. Her friend encouraged her to keep trying and to be patient, pointing out that the emotional distance between her and Chinaza wouldn't be bridged overnight. Though Victoria felt exhausted, she agreed to make an effort. The following day, Ifeanyi stormed into Victoria's office angrily, upset that she had withheld funding for his team's project. Victoria calmly explained that she couldn't release the funds due to inaccuracies in his financial reports. Frustrated, Ifeanyi spoke to her disrespectfully, taking advantage of his privileged position before storming out. Later, while driving, he called his sister to complain about Victoria's behavior. His sister promised to speak with their father about the situation, and they ended their conversation. That evening, after returning home from work, Victoria realized that Chinaza was missing. She searched the house and questioned the gatekeeper, who revealed that Chinaza had left with her luggage. Furious, Victoria scolded the gatekeeper for not informing her sooner. Upset and overwhelmed, she shared the situation with her friend. Her friend advised her to approach the issue with love and care, explaining that Chinaza might be acting out because she wasn't sure if Victoria genuinely cared for or loved her. Victoria began calling everyone she could think of, including neighbors and her sister, to locate Chinaza, but no one knew where she was. Meanwhile, an important call from her office required her attention, and she had to step away to handle it. A few days later, Victoria received a call informing her that Chinaza was at the police station. She rushed there immediately, bailed her out, and sternly issued a final warning without giving Chinaza a chance to explain herself. On another occasion, Victoria picked up her younger daughter, Isabel, from boarding school for the holidays. She introduced Isabel to Chinaza, who seemed out of place but helped Isabel with her bags to her room. Later that day, while Victoria was on a work call and raising her voice in frustration, Isabel came in to check on her. Victoria assured her that everything was fine and sent her away. Victoria was under pressure to recover the account of a significant client, instructing her secretary on the necessary steps. The next day at work, Chief Chuka visited Victoria to discuss the ongoing issues in the company. Although his tone annoyed her, she refrained from being rude. He complimented her efforts and lightened the mood with jokes before heading to a board meeting. During the meeting, Ifeanyi and Victoria clashed over differing ideas. Chief Chuka emphasized the importance of collaboration and respect, making it clear that every idea should serve the company's interests. His comments left Ifeanyi feeling validated. That evening, Victoria returned home to find Isabel and Chinaza laughing at a comedy video. She sent Isabel to her room and scolded Chinaza, warning her against exposing Isabel to inappropriate content. Chinaza silently endured the reprimand. The next day, Chinaza went out to buy something, and Isabel pleaded to accompany her. After much insistence, Chinaza agreed. On their way, a stranger approached them for directions. Victoria, who happened to be nearby, saw them and immediately became concerned. She called Isabel into her car and drove away, leaving Chinaza confused and running after them. When Chinaza returned home, Victoria confronted her, pleading with her not to expose Isabel to her reckless behavior. Their argument was overheard by Ifeanyi, who had come to deliver a message. Chinaza, hurt, poured out her frustrations, accusing Victoria of abandoning her and showing more love to Isabel. Victoria tried to justify her past actions, but Chinaza left, feeling even more alienated. Later, Victoria called her sister to inform her that Chinaza had left and might be at her place. Her sister criticized her, pointing out that Victoria's attitude would be different if it were Isabel. The conversation ended abruptly when Isabel walked in, questioning whether Chinaza was truly Victoria's daughter. Victoria avoided the truth, diverting Isabel's attention to something else. At work the next day, Ifeanyi used the opportunity to tell Chief Chuka about Victoria's secret daughter. When Victoria arrived, Ifeanyi accused her openly. Chief Chuka asked Victoria if the claims were true, but she remained silent, confirming their validity. Deeply disappointed, Chief Chuka left the matter unresolved. That evening, Victoria approached her husband to apologize. She explained that she had hidden the truth out of fear of losing him, and because his family had never supported their marriage. She admitted she didn't know how to tell him. Chief Chuka, though hurt, reminded her that he had been honest about his past and wished she had done the same. Despite the betrayal, he forgave her, assuring her that he was ready to accept Chinaza as his daughter. They reconciled and decided to move forward together. Sometime later, Chinaza visited her aunt to share the good news of her university admission. Her aunt advised her to maintain good behavior and avoid fighting at school. Chinaza promised to do so, and they celebrated together. That same day, Ifeanyi visited his father, still bitter about Victoria remaining CEO despite her lies. Chief Chuka explained that he had forgiven Victoria because her actions stemmed from fear, not malice. He also confronted Ifeanyi about his attempts to sabotage Victoria, including colluding with company clients. As a result, Chief Chuka fired him and instructed him to apologize to Victoria publicly. Ifeanyi would have to reapply for his position, and only Victoria could decide whether he could return. The next day, while Victoria was making an office call in her car, she received an urgent call informing her that Isabel had been seen wandering the streets. Alarmed, Victoria rushed home and confronted Isabel, demanding to know where she had been. Isabel explained that she was searching for Chinaza. This prompted Chief Chuka to urge Victoria to forgive herself and bring Chinaza back home so they could live as a family. He reminded her that the time had come to heal their broken relationship. A few days later, Victoria went searching for Chinaza and found her cooking food by the roadside. She approached her daughter and pleaded for her forgiveness, acknowledging her failings as a mother. She admitted that her reasons for keeping Chinaza at a distance were unjustifiable and that she had been wrong. Chinaza expressed her pain and the hurtful things Victoria had said in the past, but after much persuasion, she forgave her mother. Victoria promised to treat her like her true daughter and take full responsibility for her from then on. The two reconciled and returned home, determined to start anew. Chinaza began living with Victoria in peace, finally experiencing the love and care she had longed for from her mother. Together, they embraced their roles as mother and daughter, building a harmonious relationship. What did you learn from this movie? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to this amazing channel. Stay tuned for more captivating, educational, and thought-provoking movies from us.